Andy Johnson. We're talking about teaching narrative writing today. I'm talking about it. And it's one of three types of writing identified by the Common Core state standards. However, as we'll see, the Common Core state standards fall far short of what should be as well. There are many more. There are 6 types of writing that should be included in a writing curriculum, not just these 3. But that's the topic of another video. We are talking about how to teach narrative writing. And there you see the Common Core state standards. This is for grade 5, but they want students in grades K through 5 to write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective techniques, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. So write narratives. Now that a narrative is not always a creative story. Narratives could be your own experiences to describe your real experience or events. So that is an important thing to keep in mind as we look at this. Now, any academic standard should inform the curriculum. It should never become the curriculum. And too often that happens. We're given the Common Core state standards or some academic standards. It's given to a school and they go, oh my gosh, we should follow this exactly. No, nay, 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 I say unto you. Teachers must be empowered. So in an ideal world, teachers, not clowns outside of education, are helping to develop the academic standards, and then teachers develop the curriculum, which includes academic standards. The teacher is the expert, and the teacher should be central to all of this because teachers have a body of knowledge. They know their students, and they have pedagogical knowledge. Had teachers been intimately involved with the Common Core state standards, we wouldn't have some that are so absolutely silly. But they are there. We've got to meet them. So I'm going to show you how to do them. So, and again, it's the teacher with that body of knowledge who then creates lessons based on the curriculum. That's the way it should be in a real world. Sadly, in a real world, the teachers, you just erase teachers, you got academic. Yeah, we won't go into that. All right. Another important thing is that you teach the process. If you're serious about developing students' ability to write, you teach the process, the writing process, to develop writing skills. This is the 5-step writing process. It's been around for a long time. Pre-draft is to generate ideas. The draft is the first attempt at getting those ideas on paper. Revision, that's the heart of writing. Revise, 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 you're shaping. Editing is step 4, where you look for mechanics, spelling, punctuation, grammar. You do not edit in steps 1 through 3. That's the best way to screw up a writer, to insist that their draft be grammar-free. And then the last one is to share, to get feedback, to develop an audience. So if you're serious about teaching students to write, this is central, and you're teaching each one of these stages and skills. Now, narrative. These are types of narrative writing. Realistic fiction, historical, you get the idea. These are all describing events. And again, it says write narrative to develop real or imagined. So it's not just creative experiences. You are describing your own experiences or the experiences of other people. And that would become more clear in just a minute. All right. Real or imagined. That includes personal writing as well. As part of this, we are developing students' ability to use adjectives, dialogues, similes, metaphors, sequence, story. These are all parts of story grammar. More on that in a bit. But the first one is biographical writing. This involves the lives of real people, personal narratives, single events, writers, biographies, and that involves the right of real people. A biography is written in the third person through an objective lens, usually. Third person is when there are no personal pronouns. It's all him, her, she, them. There's no I, me, us, we. And a pronoun, I'm not assuming that everyone knows what a pronoun is. A pronoun takes the place of a proper noun. So instead of Adam did this and then Adam went there, Adam did this and he went there. See, it takes the place of that personal pronoun. That's what noun. That's what that is. Also, I'm not assuming that everyone knows what point of view is in writing. First person, describing it through your eyes. And that's where we use the I, me, we, us. Autobiographies, personal narratives, fiction, and memoirs. Now, in most academic writing that I've been doing for years and years and years, there is none of that. You hide behind the timid third person lens, but I'm changing that a little bit. Second person, usually this is when you are explaining something. You're addressing the reader directly. When you plan your lesson, you should do this. All right. And that is used quite a bit when I'm using expository writing, teaching or explaining something. And then the third person is that objective writing. It's all about someone else. She, he, her, him, they, them. And when graduate students are writing their academic papers, we get them in this nice objective third person. Just so you know what it is. All right, let's look at personal narratives. Describing events that happen to you, scenes, interactions. You're writing about your life. And this often includes dialogue, and dialogue is used to make it come to life. It's an important part of this. Rich description of people and places. Students get to see the impact of their words, the adjectives, the metaphors, and similes. That's why we include personal narratives in our writing. However, in the real world, I've never been asked to write a personal narrative. In our professional lives, I have not been asked to do this. Like all the arts, though, we realize the impact of the words, the precision of our words, and the process of this creative writing, this personal writing. The process is what transfers to all types of writing. And again, in my professional lives and in your professional lives, few people are asked to write personal narratives. We usually have to write objective and messages and professional. But it is the impact of the words and the process that transfers to all types of writing. Personal narratives as well can be used to help students understand themselves and other people as they share. Part of identity formation, part of culturally responsive pedagogy. Identity formation within a culture or organization. So that's some of the reasons why we include this form of art in the language arts. Autobiographies are your life written in the first person, memorable events, and this is an extended personal narrative and often in chronological order. And again, there is not a lot of call for writing autobiographies in the real world. But we see the impact of our words, the precision of our words, and the process of writing well transfers to other things. The process of pre-writing, drafting, revise, edit, and share. It's that process. We teach the process to develop the skill. In memoir, usually with older students, you are describing memories, and often it's an interpretation. So it doesn't always have to be exactly factual, and it doesn't have to be in chronological order, and it doesn't have to include all your life. Memoir, that's usually with older students. The biography, that is the life of another person. Usually these have to be accurate and in chronological order. Usually it involves research of some sort and written in the objective third person. Again, big picture, in our real lives, unless we're famous or writing an obituary, most of us will never have to do this kind of writing. So that's the big picture. But we can use this kind of writing to enhance the language arts. And I've said this about 17 times, impact of words and sentences, and the process transfers as well. Biographies can be used in all subject areas to enhance learning about the important people in the sciences, health, social studies. And autobiographies, when written and shared, helps us understand ourselves, our feelings, our situations. And when we share with other people, we realize that there is a commonality of the human experience. So good writing helps you understand others. Personal intelligence, within, understand yourself, and begin to understand other people. That is why writing is such an important part of culturally responsive pedagogy. All right, a couple of simple activities that you can use with this type of narrative writing. The Oprah interviews, where this works with biographies. After doing research about one person takes the Oprah role and interviews the other person. You can have a lot of fun with this. This can be done in a small group or as part of a large group, kind of creative, dramatic sort of thing. The hot seat. This is interesting. Someone has written a biography. They volunteer to stand in the front, and then the whole class fires questions at them, and they take the role of the person they're doing the biography about. I probably forgot to suggest that, in the Oprah interview. The writer becomes that person, and you do a kind of a creative dramatics. You become that person. Another activity would be an autobiography of your future self. Help students think about themselves a year from now, 5 years from now, 10, etc. Understand yourself in the context of your life, and simulated journal entries with biographies. You respond as that biography subject. You become the character and you describe the event. And again, it's a way to bring to life different types of learning. All right, I am going to describe 10 scaffolds for narrative writing. I invite you to adopt and adapt. And a scaffold is a temporary structure. The goal is not to be structure dependent, but use these as long as necessary. And there's a lot of different, some of these may work for you, some may just not. Adopt and adapt. And the first one is a very low tech thing. It's the timeline. To help students write narrative writing, simply list events that occurred on a timeline and characters up here. And once they get that, they can begin to write their narrative. This can be done with creative writing, biographies, memoirs, autobiographies. The timeline. Not that difficult, but again, a little structure. Cartoon boxes. These are good for younger students. 3 to 5 cartoon boxes. They draw it first, and then they may want to write a sentence underneath, and that could be good enough. Or they could then take the writing underneath and write a narrative without the pictures. But with younger students, I like the picture part of it. Younger students, kindergarten, first, second, third. If they're writing and still enjoying it, keep doing it. Now, this is an interesting strategy. I got this from this book, Graham and Harris, Writing Better. It's based on the idea that sometimes all your story ideas get in the way of actually writing. They become disruptive to the creative thinking process. So I like this one where, yes, you have your story idea, but you just generate a lot of words first. First, action words related to your story, and then describing words, things that happen. And again, we're using just words to disrupt the creative thinking that might not be happening. And it can be used with all types of writing. Vocabulary strategy. Another strategy. Oh, here are the steps. Think of the story. an event, just the idea. As you think of your idea, generate action words that describe your story. Generate describing words that describe your story. Write your draft. Go back, look for places to add action and describing words. Continue to revise. So you have this nice scaffold that gets you going, and then you can go back and add these. All right. Event, characters, strategies. Event character strategy for narrative writing. And again, it lists events, and it doesn't have to be in chronological order, doesn't have to be linear, but you simply have your story idea and events you would like to have happen or occur in your story, and then you'll see characters arising out of that. And based on that, then you can write your story. Events, character, strategy. And this is a scaffold to get you going. Beginning, middle, end. And again, this gets you thinking of your narrative, and we call it a story, and that could be a creative story, it could be your narrative or biography of whatever it is. Events you'd like to happen in the beginning, middle, or end of the story. Again, this gets you thinking of the story structure, the story in stages, and sometimes the characters arise out of the events, sometimes events arise out of the characters. Based on this, you write your first draft. Think of the story idea. As you think of your story, identify event description, identify characters that could appear. I like to have students list at least 2 words related to their characters here. And again, adopt and adapt. Then you write your draft. You go back and look for places to add things. Basic story grammar. And this is based on just the very basic story grammar that students use. You have your events, our story idea or event. What event are you describing? Characters, events, things that happen, and the settings that take place. And this is used to create the draft. This is a very basic story grammar, but this should get you going. You see them here, and you can stop and read this if you want. Here we're identifying settings, so it kind of becomes like a movie script in a way. Here's another movie script idea. Here, you're going to just focus on a scene, and this helps develop students' ability to write a scene, to imagine. You add descriptive elements. All right, you're in this scene. You're in the forest. That's the scene. What would you see there? What actions might be taking place, or might the character do? What sounds do you hear? Smells, if any? Emotions? And then feeling, or use this. Now, you may not use all the ideas here, but it's creating a structure from which to begin to write your narrative or your story. And you can stop and look at the specific steps if you wish. Or the Visor chart for narrative writing. I made that word up, by the way. The purpose is to get more descriptive language into the narration. We're working at the sentence level. You're teaching about metaphors and similes. You have the thing or event from the story, and then you just begin to list associations. What does it remind you of? What is it like? You use one of these to create a metaphor or simile, and then you go back into your draft or your vision, and you begin to add those. So sometimes this is done after the draft, sometimes before the draft. It helps students think in terms of metaphors. The metaphorizer or metaphorzer. I made that word up. And you can stop and you can read that on your own. Adjectivizer. I made that one up as well. Purpose is to get more colorful language. And again, it teaches students the power of words and adjectives. You list the thing there, or the place, or the experience. And then you list the describing words and just generate. Don't think, get those ideas out. Then after you've written your draft and you're revising, you can go back and begin to include the describing words into sentences. Adjectivizer for narrative writing. Get the idea? You can stop that, insert sentences during the revising stage. Dialoguer, I made that one up as well, for narrative writing, makes the characters come to life. Record what students say, and between dialogue, the reactions, movements, inner thoughts, or actions. And you don't have to use all this stuff, but we teach students that dialogue helps narrative writing come to life. This is character A, this is character B. Character A says something, character B responds, but then we begin to think, what are the reactions? What are the inner and outer things? What are they thinking about between the dialogue? What's their physical movements or reactions the characters might be doing? For instance, he said hello. He moved nervously. He was thinking about. That's the inner and outer. And this helps the story come alive. You have this chart, and you don't have to use it all, but you're creating kind of a background story, aren't you? And then you insert dialogue into the story during the revising stage. There you go. Some ideas about teaching narrative writing. It's one of the Common Core state standards. This is how you don't teach it. You teach little things along the way, but you develop students' ability to write this form of writing. Write this form of writing. That doesn't make sense, but to use or do this type of writing.